Hello, it's another episode of the Designated Pundits. We are doing our 2026 team preview series. Number 2 today, the Columbus Crew. You know what we're doing, 30 teams, 30 guests who are specialists in each and every one. Today, Columbus Crew with Ty Fisher from the Massive Report. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
Not too bad. Kind of fighting off some snow here in North Jersey. This is the second of 30 teams we're previewing, so it is January 18th. We do want to let you know that because there may be some updates, but we think we have a really good idea of what this team is going to look like throughout the season. So let's get started with a very brief recap of what happened just 1 year ago. 14, 12, and 8 record. It was good enough for 7th place in the Eastern Conference. You outscored FC Cincinnati 5-3 in the playoffs, but were eliminated with 2 losses there. And you know, that's about it. That's about what we have to say, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. We'll move on.
Okay, we're going to talk about the goals scored. 55 goals was 7th in the East. The 51 conceded was tied for 9th in the East, which gave you guys a +4 goal differential, 9th in the East. Very different than what we expected to see during the 2025 season. You think you'd agree with that?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, if you look back, even I think it was 24, where we had a +30 something goal differential, and now we're scoring 30 less goals in what we had in 25. It's very much different, especially because we had that core group in from 23 that won MLS Cup back. It's very different, and people starting to figure us out and everything like that.
Well, it wasn't only that. There was a little bit of a sell-off during the season.
Yep.
Cucho left, Morris, Ramirez, and kind of just not replaced throughout the rest of the season. Daniel Gazdag was brought in. I thought that was a really big story, but it took him 6 months to put a goal in the back of the net. Not what we wanted there. So let's just talk about how those things affected the season. I'm going to hate to see Wilfred Nancy gone. That's one of my personal ones because, you know, when I think about what we said, they outscored FC Cincinnati 5-3 in the playoff series and got eliminated. He was not happy about that. Always very vocal anti things that didn't make sense in Major League Soccer, and I think we're going to miss that voice. Whether or not he's your coach or not, that doesn't affect me, but I do miss having that voice there.
Yeah, especially when, you know, somebody like him who's been around soccer and been around European soccer and whatnot, seeing how things are different now. He was a very big advocate for, you know, having things go a certain way, consistency and stuff like that, especially with the playoff system.
Love it. And just talk about the player movement. We recorded this episode last year and we were like, okay, the roster's set. The roster was not set. There was a little bit of a sell-off through the season. There was a DP brought in that didn't quite fit what we were looking to do.
Yeah, I think the biggest one obviously was Cucho Hernandez, right? Being sold to Real Betis and La Liga. Don't get me wrong, credit to him, he's tearing it up. But his goal was to go back to Europe and perform well to be hopefully named to the Colombian national team for the World Cup. Don't think that was going to happen here in Columbus because just of how MLS is viewed upon, you know, the top 5 leagues in the world, right? Adam Morris, now at Middlesbrough, we knew that his aspiration was to go to Europe, whether it be England, whether it be Spain, Germany, wherever it was. He's also tearing it up. Borough fans love him. We love him. Hopefully we could get him back, but Borough fans would absolutely hate us if Columbus Crew got him back. Ramirez, not really much missing from Ramirez, but I do think that the presence of him coming off of the bench in 24 was missed in 25 because he was that impact player, right? If we look at the 2023 Eastern Conference Final against FC Cincinnati, he comes off the bench and is involved in two of the goals to send the game into extra time, and then scores the game winner in second half of extra time. So we really didn't have that piece to kind of make a game-changing decision or game-changing anything last year, and that's what we missed with Ramirez.
Love it. Okay, so let's talk about how those goals were scored and talk about some of the contributors from last season. Yeah, Diego Rossi, 16 goals, 3 assists. Jason Russell-Rowe, 7 goals and 1. Max Arfson, 4 goals, 5 assists. Daniel Gazdag, 4 and 3. Huge disappointment for what he was expected to do. You had Marcelo Herrera add some from the wing, and Wessam Abu Ali, 3 goals, although that's just about over, 4 to 6 games, something like that. He was one of the
Yeah.
later there. Talk to us about the contributors from last season.
I mean, obviously the biggest one, Diego Rossi, right? Everything was piled on him when Cucho left. He performed as well as he could. I would say he probably slightly underperformed. But given the nature of playing with Jason Russell-Rowe, Ramirez when he was still in Columbus, Cujo, it was kind of a shift, right, to where he would just be used as a cam, maybe a false nine, and have Abu Ali when he came to put the ball in the back of the net. But he's still performing, still putting up numbers. That's what we needed. Jason Russell-Rowe, a little bit more of a hit or miss kind of guy, but 7 goals and 1 assist. He was one of those very sneaky players that would get goals, right? You would think that his hold up play is good and he would be the one to kind of distribute. But I mean, he's been working on his left, been working on his right. So very happy for him to get goals. Arfson is probably the most dangerous guy, especially on that left wing. But when he got into those spaces, especially cutting in from the left and getting it on his right foot, he can be very lethal, obviously, with the 4 goals and 5 assists that he had. Sorry, my phone just started playing music for all of a sudden. Daniel Gazdag, I mean, you said it. That is not what we expected. And even after a month, people were calling for Issa Tall to sell Gazdag. It's kind of hard to go from playing a striker role or whatever he played in Philly under Jim Curtin, where he was being asked to score goals, and being now asked to kind of, hey, play possession, do this, do this, do this, but only score when you feel like you have the time and opportunity to. So, yeah, it took months for him to adapt, but at the same time, I feel like going from Jim Curtin and a little bit with Bradley Carnell to Wilfred Nancy and how Nancy had played his style from 23 on, it's a very big shift change, 180. I feel like that's almost as if you were going from Ohio and moving all the way across the country and adjusting to the time change, because your body's so used to doing one thing and doing another thing, and now you have to do it this way. Andreas Herrera, that guy was probably the one that's caught everybody, because he was brought in on loan from River Plate, and we just expect him to be a Mo Farsi backup. Obviously, he can score goals. He has the passion for it. I would like to see him score more, because I do feel like having both wingers on the score sheet can definitely make the opposition do a little bit more defending, right? And then Abu Ali, I mean, we've seen what he can do. Scored a natural hat trick in the FIFA Club World Cup. Sucks that he got injured. But I do feel like that there's something special with this guy. And I do feel like that with him being healthy and now getting a full preseason with Columbus and being more acclimated with with his teammates, I do feel like we can see Abu Ali get those numbers like Diego Rossi had, maybe close to what Cucho had when he was in the Golden Boot race, and I believe it was 23.
Absolutely. He was 3 goals in 300 minutes in Major League Soccer competitions for him. So, you're doing a good clip there. And, as far as Gazdag goes, that's kind of the one I just want to circle back to. I think 22 of like his 50 goals that he scored for Philly were penalty kicks. So, 2 of his 4 goals last season were penalty kicks. I mean, that's kind of what he has to offer. And, I still think he could be a really good contributor. You're 28 years old, another year in the system. Maybe something will work out. I think the quality player there is too much to shy away from.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some transactions. You had some players out. Derek Jones, option declined. Lassi Lapalainen, option declined. A player I've liked quite a bit in Major League Soccer. I believe he started in Montreal. And Darlington Nagbe retired. So you have a loss, a push, and not too much missing. It's basically going to be a run it back.
Yeah. I think the biggest one is Derek Jones. I mean, I don't know if you saw it or not, but Derek Jones, and I don't know if he's still with LAFC, Yaoyaboa, were kind of caught in this little everybody thinks it's like this gambling scandal when the whole thing with the NBA was going down and whatnot. Just bad timing because these two kind of broke MLS protocol on something. It wasn't very specified on what it was, but I firmly believe that's why Derek Jones had his option declined. He also wasn't getting minutes, right? We saw Sean Zawoski be used all around the pitch. We also had Hugo Picard come in, Taha Brun, a homegrown, get thrown into the center midfield a little bit. So Derek Jones really wasn't getting minutes. Lapalainen, I do agree. I do like Lassie a lot. He was one of those winger game changers, kind of like Ramirez, how Ramirez was a forward game changer. He was a winger game changer, able to service the ball in with his left very well. And then obviously the GOAT himself, Darlington Nagbe. He's definitely going to be missed, but just happy that he retired on his own terms. Kind of a full circle moment for him, starting at Akron in Ohio from Lakewood, and just kind of doing that full circle moment, how he comes home and ends his career back in the Buckeye State.
What player on Columbus Crew had the highest goals and assists per 90? I'll give you a hint. He's on this graphic.
I would assume Darlington Nagbe.
Lassi Lapalainen, 1 goal, 4 assists in under 400 minutes. That's
really
1.13 goal and assists per minute. He is my guy. And the fact that Gazdag came in when Lassie could have done Lassie things kind of disappoints me a little bit.
I believe it. I believe it. Yeah.
Over the course of the season, is this going? No, of course it's not going to be, replicable. Someone in the chat saying he actually got released by LAFC. Yeah.
Yeah, both then. Yeah.
Let's move on and talk about the players incoming. I added Wissam Abu Ali because he did only play 5 games last season, 2025 edition, and with an off season, that's going to still count like an addition. Most people watching did not see him play unless you watched every Columbus game last year. You also have, going to butcher this name, Sekou Bangura, and 4 homegrowns, MLS Next players, draft picks, players like that I'm not quite including by name just yet.
That's fair. I haven't really seen too much on Bangura, but what I do know from what I've heard is he is a little bit more of a attacking kind of midfield, not really a cam, but more so when Aiden Morris was here in Columbus, he would kind of push up into the offense and Darlington Nagbe would kind of stay back. So I believe Bangura is kind of more of that center mid who can push up into the final third if need be, kind of provide that outlet when the crew is swinging the ball around outside of the 18-yard box. And then obviously, we just talked about Abu Ali and how he can perform this year, especially now. Again, having a full offseason with his teammates, kind of getting more acclimated and how the plays out now with a new coach also.
How many goals do you think he gets this season?
At his best, if
it's got to be over 20, right?
Yeah, provided injury doesn't play a factor, I'd probably go pushing 30. Quite honestly, maybe over 25.
Optimistic.
Yeah, very. Yeah. I hope for the best for this guy. I just think it sucks because he started off so well and then he gets hit with an injury and it's like, what could this guy actually do when he's not injured?
We will find out. Let's take a little peek at this depth chart here. Not from anyone in the know. I just kind of had a rush to put something together. Kind of a modified 5-2-2-1 or 3-4-2-1, 3-4-3, any of those, whichever you prefer. Let's talk about the formation. You have a new coach now, and how that's going to affect what we see on this depth chart here.
I don't think it affects too much anything, right? Because when you listen back or read the quotes about Henrik Rydstrom from general manager Issa Tall, he plays similar to Wilfried Nancy. The only change, though, is he tilts the field a little bit, right? So, the ball's on the left hand side with Nazi. It was more so, hey, how can we kind of break down the defense, make sure that, we're drawing these guys in and then break out and swing the ball back to the other side either way. With Rydstrom, it's more so, let's just get everybody on one side of the field, play this way, and then break out. So the field tilt is what I'm kind of interested to see because with Nazi, we kind of played through our wingers. We kind of played through Arston and Herrera, and a little bit through Shambost and Darlington Nagby. But I'm really intrigued to see just how much of the shift when you see Picard, Herrera, and Rossi come to the left side of the field, what that looks like, because then I believe you have room for Morera, Zawatsky, or Aliu, whoever's on that right side, if they're not over, to kind of take the space in front of them and start a counterattack.
Love it. Okay, let's start from the top. We talked about the three main attackers: Gazdag, Abu Ali, Rossi. You do have Aliu back there. I believe he was from Houston, something like that. And then Russell Rowe, a player who's been kicking around for a little bit now. Anything you'd like to add about that trident there?
I feel like on his best day, Ibrahim Aliu is one of those guys that will really make a name for himself. But I feel like he can make a name for himself if he's more of the winger type, because we've seen him play on the left wing a couple times when I can't remember who it was, when we had Russell Rowe, Gazdak, and Rossi all play together up top. So there's nowhere for Aliu to kind of be with those three. But I feel like with his speed, I feel like Aliu on the left-hand side, if I remember correctly, on the left-hand side, can get up and down very fast. Join the attack, get back on defense, play a little bit with the ball when they're doing triangles. But I feel like if he has more time, right, more minutes, I feel like he could definitely kind of solidify himself. Maybe not here in Columbus, but somewhere where he can definitely have his talent be showcased. Because looking at this depth chart, we have a lot of talent already, and then he's just kind of being overshadowed. But if he went somewhere where they needed a speedy winger or a forward who can put the ball in the net maybe more consistently, Ali would definitely be one of those guys to keep an eye on.
Love it. Moving now to the midfield. Talk a little bit about the midfield responsibilities are. You do have these wings, flying up the field. And when I say our Herrera, they're not really fullbacks. They're like wing backs. Their position isn't a depth or not. It's a width or not. So talk a little bit about the midfield and what they're expected to be able to bring to the team.
I think with Dylan, you're kind of getting the same thing as that he had last year, right? Dylan is more so a very conservative midfielder, right? Scored goals, but I feel like when we're playing an opposition that gives him space, he will take that space in front of him. But he also played a little bit more back, a little bit more defensively with Nagby, that allowed the opposition to get into our final third. Maybe that's how we got more goals scored on us. Not sure. Hugo Picard, he's still up and coming. I do feel like that he will definitely be one of those guys that can trouble, not very much trouble, but he can, what's the word, rattle the opposition, especially with how quick he is. Sean Zawatsky, that guy can play literally anywhere. I'm surprised you don't have him as the fourth. The chart you sent me earlier, the depth chart, the fourth on the backup keepers, or anywhere else on the field, because that guy's just the Swiss Army knife of the team. And you hit the nail on the head. Marston and Herrera are more so the width guys that can stretch defense, that can stretch the field a little bit. and I think we're going to see a lot more of Herrera if and when Farsi either goes somewhere else or when he's with an Algerian national team.
Love it. Okay, let's go to the center backs now. Amundsen, Chiberko, and Morera. You got Rudy Camacho somewhere banging around on the depth chart there too, right?
Yeah, provided that he is also healthy. Um, Amundsen, I feel like he not really hasn't really fallen off, but I do feel like that he's more of the guy that at the end of the game that can really solidify a win for Columbus. He's played really well in 23. Was kind of bouncing back and forth between starting and on the bench in 24, especially in 25. Also, Shaberko has grown into this team quite a bit. I do like him starting. Morera has been a consistent starter even after Caleb Porter left Columbus in 2022. Camacho, that you have veteran uh, experience there. So obviously helping Ruvalcaba to the right of him. If Caesar plays any minutes this year, obviously helping him kind of adapt to how MLS is. We've seen him a couple times last year, and I believe the year before that. I think it was mostly last year. But getting his feet wet last year. Now can Camacho just help Ruvalcaba kind of solidify his name into maybe a starting 11 or a consistent match day roster spot?
I love it. So I think center back is definitely the position that you guys need some pickups. You need extra guys there.
100%.
If you're paying with 3 center backs, you need 5 center backs available every week. I don't see 5
Yeah,
center backs being available each and every week. So
not
that
at
is
all.
something. And you don't want to go to a 4-man back line because that's going to take some of the width away from the fullbacks there. So I definitely think you need to run a 3-man back line, 3 center backs. And I think that if we see moves coming, it's still January when we're filming
Yep.
this video. I would expect it to be, something to shore up that back line, even if it's like Red Bull getting Tim Parker, so, just like a veteran guy
Yeah.
you can take and plug in back there.
Yep.
Talk about the keeper.
Well, Patrick Schulte was not at his best, obviously, last year. Not sure what it was. Was it just, the defense kind of leaving him hanging out to dry? Yes, no. Was he just kind of misreading plays? Yes, no. No one ever knows. But I do feel like Schulte is one of those good keepers. He will need to have a very fantastic start to the season if he wants to be the number one for the USMNT heading into the World Cup. Veteran experience again in Evan Bush. We also have Nico Hagen, who has experience with the Guatemala national team. Um, with Evan Bush, he does have that, as I said, veteran experience, so he can definitely kind of push these guys, especially now that this is a World Cup year, to perform at a higher standard, right? And then I think that's all the keepers we have. I know we just signed Luke Pruder, who was a Columbus Crew 2 keeper, signed him to a homegrown to a professional team contract. So will he get any minutes? Probably not sure. It's kind of way too early to tell. But I think these three, including Hagen, can definitely kind of be a good core. And then with Bush taking over, if these two were to go to the national teams in World Cup.
All right, good stuff there. Let's move on to kind of the last thing. We're going to talk about some questions, preview the team a little bit from another angle here. Which player outside of our projected starting 11 has the best chance at winning a starting job?
I probably have to go Andres Herrera. Um, he is one of those guys. He's on loan, but I've never seen a lone player have so much passion for a badge than I have with him. Right? You can say, oh well, he's loan. He's going to be going back to River Plate anytime soon, whether they recall him or whatever it is. But there's something with Herrera that feels at home with him. When he plays for Columbus, I feel like he is at home, honestly. And I really hope that we pull the trigger on the buy option, because there's this fighting beast in Herrera that is definitely something I feel like the Crew have been missing for quite some time now. You don't really see much of these of players kind of just fighting for one another, fighting for the what people say, fighting for the badge. And I feel like that's what Herrera is when he's on the pitch. He goes into tackles. Let me rephrase that. Besides Aiden Morris fighting for the badge, I haven't seen anybody else fight for the badge as much as Herrera. Whether he's going into tackles, whether he's scoring goals, and it's the emotion in his face. There's just something about him that is starting 11 worthy every week. And I think we have seen that over the course of the last year and a half that he's been with us.
So you're saying it just to clarify, on my depth chart, I had him as the starting right back. You think it's Farsi in that he has the best chance to overtaking Farsi?
Yes. Yes, 100%. And I just feel like this Farsi has kind of made his mark, right? Yes, he got injured, but I feel like Farsi has made his mark on that right wing back spot to keep it heading into this year. But as of last year, whatnot, when it was Herrera starting because Farsi had that hernia surgery, I would now see it kind of flip back to where Farsi would start, Herrera would be on the bench, but I do feel like that Herrera would be the best option to have start.
Love it. What are some realistic team expectations? Last year we had you guys second or third in the East, finished seventh. What can you guys do this year?
Not finish seventh. I think maybe realistically, I'd say fourth or fifth, quite honestly, because I think it just has to wait and see on how well that this team can adapt to the little nuances that Rydstrom would kind of implement into this team. What do we want? We want first, honestly, in the East, but I don't think that's going to happen. So realistically, I think fourth or fifth, but I feel like what the Crew want will probably be second or third, quite honestly.
Absolutely. Notice no one's putting anyone else first in the East. I wonder why that is. Interesting.
Yeah.
So really, really good stuff. What are some storylines we can follow throughout the season? If I turn on the Columbus Crew any given day, what am I going to be looking for? Is it going to be the coach? Is it going to be a position battle? Is it going to be like, what is going to be, when I turn on the highlights, the thing that the pundits are talking about all season long?
That's a very good question because it could be a number of things. I think the top one that people are going to be talking about is, I just feel like it's going to be Daniel Gazdag, right? We've seen, what did we say, 6 months it took for him to kind of put the ball in the back of the net and just kind of maybe get off on the right foot. It took him that long. I think it just have to be, how can Daniel Gazdag do Daniel Gazdag things, right? They're going to refer back to his time in Philly. They're going to look at everything that he did last year and what he did wrong and maybe things he could change. But I think it's going to be, is this the year that Daniel Gazdag performs at his best?
Is this the year that Diego Rossi stops taking penalties? That is the question.
That and I feel like people are also saying, is this the year Diego Rossi also stops crying to the ref? Because that was always a big thing last year, and how he always wanted a call. I get it, but I mean, people do that all the time. But I think that's the biggest storyline. Now, if we get off on a bad start, well, I don't want to put this in the air. If we get off to a bad start, like Nazi did at Celtic, then maybe it's going to be the coach, right? But I feel like it's just going to be more player based than anything, because this is still the same team pretty much from 23, 24, and last year.
Absolutely. If you guys aren't, mid-season, at least halfway up the standings, I would expect there. And the sad part is now that Wilfred Nancy is unemployed as of right now. The rumors are going to start. The first game, you guys are going to get blown out, and it's going to be the number one story everyone talks about on the radio.
Oh, 100%, especially if it's against Miami.
Next up, we're going to have a quick Q&A, and this is more some tactical stuff.
Yeah.
what styles does this team match up well against? What is your tactical strength, and what teams are you going to beat the pants off of?
Um, I mean, I would have to say, what teams are we gonna beat this year? Tactic wise, you say?
Yeah, like is there
Okay.
are you weak against counterattacks, or is there, direct play issues?
Yeah.
What do you match up well against? When you see this team with a lineup, you're like, yeah, we're going to win this game.
I think more so our biggest strength is just our passing and our speed. And I think we look at, let's give a random bottom table team, Toronto FC. I'd say we Toronto kind of matches bad against it because they have I believe four back, um, but we also kind of draw them out because we have our forwards kind of tuck in or drop back towards the midfield, um, and collect the ball. Maybe Rossi's all the way back in his defensive third, back in the center defensive mid position. Um, but I think with teams that play a four back and not really man, but we'll use basketball term here for a second. Zone coverage, I think that is where our biggest strength is because they leave spaces open, they leave gaps open, and that is easy for Columbus to kind of send a runner into that space, collect, and it's a quick 1-2 out to the left, a quick 1-2 out to the right, or quick 1-2 back, and then a diagonal ball to the opposite side.
All right. So teams with less skilled defenders,
Yep.
four-man back lines, guys who aren't going to be watching for those wings, like it. What styles do you match up poorly against? What is the weakness?
Oh my word! Counterattacks, obviously. Um, a not very inexperienced back line, but a very unorganized back line. It's absolutely our weakness. I mean, I can't remember how many times that we've been counterattacked on, um, especially with good teams like Miami, Cincinnati, um, LAFC, whoever we played last year that was obviously very good at sending counterattacks. But that is one thing that we have to kind of be on our toes about, is making sure that our defenders are not pushed all too far up, but can track back because, I mean, one quick pass and it's what 2v1, 3v1, and Patrick Schulte's trying his best to cut off every angle of a shot on goal. But I think maybe also one of the biggest things is just letting the other opposition dictate the game. Obviously, Columbus dictated the game in 23 and 24. Won trophies that year, but I feel like we just let let the opposition gain more possession of the ball, and that's not what Columbus is. Columbus wants to dictate the game, hold more possession, and I feel like we just let other teams do that a lot last year.
All right. Which player is taking the biggest step forward in 2026?
Oh, that's hard. I can name three off the top of my head, but if I had to choose one, I feel like it would have to be I feel like I have to be Abu Ali. I think, and I keep referring back to the injuries. I hate referring back to the injury, but you have a guy who was injured, came to Columbus, kind of still injured a little bit, um, gets injured again, and now he's out for, I can't remember how many months he was out. Was it 3 months before the end of the
Yeah,
season?
it was a stretch.
Yeah. I think now it's just all right. I cannot get injured this year. I need to show why they spent 7.5 million plus an extra couple million for incentives. Because then now we look like fools for spending that much money if he can't score X amount of goals or whatever the incentive is for Al Ali, whatever they agreed on. I think that's the player that now I would say improves for 2026, and that's also adding on to maybe what he showed us in those 4 or 5 games that that he had last year.
Love it. Yeah, he played with the Club World Cup in June, end of June, and then he came in at the end of
Was it July?
August.
August.
At the
Okay,
end of
yeah.
August. So he only played 6 games, but it was like a 2 month stretch that they
Yeah.
only just played 6 games in that stretch. It was like the international break, another thing right before the playoffs, you know. So kind of an interesting one there. What player do you think has a chance of taking a step back? Who regresses in 2025?
Oh, man. I don't want to say Gazdag. If I had a, yeah, I probably have to say, and I hate saying this because he's a great guy. I would have to say it'd be Rossi, right? Because I feel like everybody's still asking too much of him, right? And I use this example a lot. When Columbus got rid of Lucas Zelarayan in 23 and brought in Diego Rossi, everybody wanted Rossi to do Lucas Zelarayan things. You can't do that because they're two different players with two different capabilities. I feel like we're still asking Rossi for a lot because we are reminded of his LAFC days, right? But I feel like with that much pressure, I feel like it's just not really weighing on his shoulders, but I feel like it's in the back of his head where if he doesn't do this, people are going to say this, people are going to say this, people are going to say this. With him, I feel like he doesn't have that freedom like he had in LAFC because he won. And what he won something in his first year with LAFC. I just can't remember what award it was. Um, but we are expecting him to do this, but he can't do that because he is playing this way. We want him to play this way. And now with a new coach, I'm not sure how he's going to play Rossi. I would assume it's going to be the same way. But I mean, Rossi is also just playing 90 minutes. I would say,
Yeah, and it's
what,
also for
six
me,
out
it's
of
a thing
seven
of
weeks.
like you need everyone else. If Abu Ali scoring 25 goals, like you seem to
Yeah.
think,
Yeah.
and Gazdag scores 7 goals, which you seem to think, Rossi has to take a step back. And here's the thing, Rossi was never like the lead guy. He scored
No.
12 to 16 every single year. It's
Yeah.
clockwork. Plug it in. So I do like what you say there. Maybe even if his play doesn't regress, we just stop seeing him as the total all-star, the main package, the main driver on this team. If he becomes just a contributor, maybe that's a good weight off his back. Maybe that's a good thing. But like he doesn't need to be the guy. So
Yeah.
me not having him starred on your team sheet and instead teams are focusing on Abu Ali, well, that is going to seem like Rossi's taking a regression, right?
Yeah. 100%.
All right. It's been a really great episode. Thank you so much for coming on, Ty.
Yeah,
Let
of
us know
course.
one more time where we can find your work.
Yeah, I am the host of the Wiseman Say podcast every Wednesday. Back this Wednesday on at Wiseman Pod on Twitter and the Wiseman Say podcast on YouTube. If you like writing and reading, you can find my work on massreport.com and follow me on Twitter at Fisher Tyler __.
Thank you so much for being here. And thank you, everyone at home. Make sure to tune in as we go over 30 Major League Soccer teams. Have a great one.